Just a little.
We're good, man. All right. We can get started. It looks like we got a good enough group here. And perfect. So, and we're recording this as well. So, welcome to class number 1.
Oh, this will be fun.
Yeah.
Am I the first person that you've had do this?
You're the first one, Josh.
We're piloting this shit right here.
Exactly. Oh, he will. This isn't Josh's first rodeo with us as a class. It's our first virtual one, which is obviously he was first in line. I reached out to him last week and said, hey, we're going to be doing this. And, you know, I know you guys are all kind of going through a ton of stuff and juggling a lot. And I figured, let's just keep the class more guest oriented in the next few weeks. My class and I will stay on at the end of this to just go over some of the stuff that we're going to talk about that's referring to the class. So we'll do most of that on Canvas and everything. But for these, I'm going to schedule a guest each week or each day. So Monday and Wednesday. And I figure it's just good stuff to keep our creative juices flowing. We have such good connections with these folks. Josh was one of the first people I brought in. God, that was like 3 years ago. You first came in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've been around.
And the great thing is Josh also does he's got his own business. Let him tell a little bit about himself. But the one thing we got to get into when we're all said and done here with this crap we're going through is a visit to Connecting Things, which is a really good creative meetup that Josh spearheaded many years ago. And they do it once a month, correct?
Yeah, once a month.
Yeah, and it's in Orange County, but we've brought in students out there a lot in the past, and it's been a fantastic time. Really good networking has happened since anytime we've gone out there. We've seen jobs even happen from students and alumni, so it's really great to be connected with them in that way. So I'm going to let you take it over, Josh. You could do a bit of an intro and then get right into your slides, man.
Yeah, so here's what
By the way, everybody, let's give him a round of applause for joining us, first of all.
Thank you, guys.
There we go. That's the group I know.
Mr. Poopy Butthole's the only non-muted person. That's great. So I'm just looking through. We got Sam. Some of you guys, do you know that on the bottom left there's like a camera icon? If you click on that, you might not have yourself blocked off or something like that.
There you go.
I don't know if you want to show your faces. Maybe you're in the bathroom or something. Looks like Jose might be. I'm not sure. Jose Fuentes. Good to see you.
I'm here. I'm in the kitchen.
There he is.
He's in the kitchen.
Good call out there, man.
I was just looking through all you guys' pictures. So this is my first time talking to you guys digitally, so this should be interesting. First thing I'm going to do, because I'm going to share my desktop, and hopefully there's nothing lewd or bad messages on here. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So I'm a graphic designer and illustrator, art director. I don't know what you would call me, but I kind of fill a lot of spaces. I'm kind of a cake decorator designer. I don't really design anything. I just make the things that look interesting, the graphics that go on top of the products. So, I design a lot of skateboards and surfboards and socks and t-shirts and all the kind of stuff that I wanted to design as a kid. I somehow managed to make a career out of doing that as an adult.
Good.
More recent projects that I've done, let's zoom in a little bit here. I did a mural up in LA at LA Live, which is right next to Staples Center. So it's LeBron James, and he's shooting some free throws, and then he has all these fans in the background. Is a recent project, and it takes up the entirety of this room. It goes from wall to wall. Against probably 3 or 4 walls. We hit a lot of really fun stuff in here. So, I design on projects like this. Here's Drake as a photographer. You can see Drake, and then you got DJ Khaled. But if anybody from legal asks me who they are, I'll just be like, that's just a guy. That's just a guy who looks like somebody. I hit Jack Nicholson in there, and I drew my daughter. I put her in there. So that's a recent project that I worked on. But I kind of work on all sorts of different types of things. It tends to be a little illustration based. If somebody hires me to do an IPA beer can, I'll say yes. This one was just based on what is it? It's based on a band. I can't remember the name of them, like a 50s surf sounding band.
Oh yeah.
And so did that project pretty recently. And then what else is fun? And then lately I've been making some of this airbrush art that I've been putting on t-shirts and selling through my brand. Here's Jesus in a Ferrari. I want to see your sign language person do Jesus in a Ferrari.
I have it on recording.
Okay, good. I wonder what Ferrari is. So
Yes.
This is him, hands out. So this is based on a Florida. You guys know what Florida Man is? The Florida Man headlines. So it'd be like a lot of headlines come out of Florida, which I love because I'm from Florida. Man. And so like the headline here was Florida Man drives Ferrari into lake because Jesus told him to. And so I was like, okay, I want to do Jesus driving a Ferrari. So I still, I make art for fun in my free time. And I try to like flex my skills and that kind of thing. This says, text me that shit. And then zoomed in, it says, don't call, won't talk. Some of you guys probably never had to use like a wireless brick phone like this before, but
they're like, what is that?
Like, Longo was probably really early on them too.
Thank you very much.
So yeah, I make some fun stuff. If you follow me on Twitter, sometimes I'll make this stuff pretty live and just show people what my updated progress looks like. So there's that. And then I have the brand that I run, which is the apparel brand called Chomp.
Hey, if I want to just chime in real quick. If anybody has a question while Josh is going through it, just pop it in on chat, and I'll ask it as we're going. But we will do a really good Q&A at the end as well.
Sweet, yeah. I like those. And if anybody has like a really funny comment that you throw through there, then maybe I'll give you a gift card.
There you go.
So yeah, most of this stuff that I make in my free time tends to be for this brand called Chomp that I launched, about 5 years ago. And it's pretty tongue in cheek. It's a pretty funny brand. And, satirical illustration based stuff. Here's a rat laying down in the belly of a snake. And so it's just, for me, it's kind of an exercise of just, flexing my skills and being able to, showcase that I can do other stuff. And it honestly leads to new work when people are like, oh, I saw that, rat illustration you did. Can you do something like that for us? And that tends to be really fun. But I just wanted to
found that a lot of these experimental things you do lead to good business just by being found?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because Chomp is sort of aspirational in the design, meaning like what I want it to be is a thing where people think it's funny, or people think the illustration style is very unique and fun, such that it leads to new work. And that has happened quite a bit. I'm getting hired by Burton right now. Well, Burton and Fat Tire, I have a collaboration, so I'm working on something for them.
Great.
And then they found me through just my weird art. So and it's fun to just, as a practice of like, what is merchandising like? What is retail? What is it like to design for retail? What's it like to work with buyers? So this thing has gotten much bigger than me. Now it's a licensed brand, meaning like someone pays me to be able to use it and sell it on their own. And so they just cut me like a quarterly check based on sales revenue. And so it's cool now. So it's like, it's an actual business, but I don't, I just make the art for it and that kind of thing. So sweet. Now you guys are up to date with what I'm working on. Oh yeah, I've designed a ton of Star Wars socks. Maybe you guys have seen these things around. Let me see. Where's the biggest one? Justin Trudeau wore them at some point. Yeah, so I designed lots of stuff for Stance. And all this stuff has been pretty fun. Let's see. Actually, the only way that I'm going to be able to stunt on this whole thing is right now. So.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that was with those sets were amazing.
Yeah.
That's
so all
killer.
these big box sets, like these things are crazy. They spent a lot of money like producing these shoots and stuff, which I didn't really know they were going to do.
Nice surprise there, right?
Yeah. I mean, when you design product for people, you don't know if they're really going to market it or not. So you don't know how big it's going to be. So Justin Trudeau, none of you guys are Canadian, but he's the Prime Minister of Canada. And he wore these during a couple, like this is like a Bloomberg summit thing. And then that got written about in the New York Times. And then The Rock wore them, on the set of SNL, so he's wearing them there. I didn't add that Clay Matthews, who plays for the Warriors, he wore them in a finals game. So some crazy stuff has happened. And so that's kind of like my portfolio. This is the stuff that I make. You probably have a good understanding now.
Killer.
What I do. And then, what I wanted to do was, you guys are working on packaging right now?
Yeah. So that's their current packaging project that they're doing. They're kind of, I think I might have shown you some of it before, where they have to take a very unlikely brand that is not in the health and wellness or personal care products thing, and do a line of packaging based on that brand as if they are now in that industry. So the challenge there is that it's an unlikely pairing, and how will they do a solution? Yeah.
So it's sort of the idea there is that they would really, really stretch and become, thinking about their consumer rather than thinking about themselves.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah. So I think about myself a lot because I'm selfish and tend to make things for people who look like me and are interested in the things I'm interested in. They have mustaches, they like posters or whatever. But I wanted to show you guys a case study where I designed for a keto shake brand. And I don't even know what keto is. Like, it's a diet. So I designed for that thing. And then I want to take you from start to finish about of how I came to certain solutions. And then the product actually just got into the marketplace like this week. So
nice.
Originally I was worried I wasn't going to be able to have you produce this live, but now we got the approval.
Perfect.
So let me get to my Dropbox.
So Mr. Poopy Butthole wants to know, but I think the answer is yes. Will Josh be critiquing our work for this project? Sure, it will. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, let's count me in. I have seen people do live critiques over a chat like this in front of a bunch of people, and people get their feelings hurt in front of a bunch of people. But if it's 1v1, we could do it too.
Yeah,
I think during this time we need to put feelings aside, people.
Totally. But we will be doing. The goal is our entire portfolio review at the end of the year. Unfortunately, he's going to have to go to the virtual, kind of setting, and we're going to do it. But again, it'll be one-on-ones, and it'll be you and a portfolio reviewer setting up a time, and we're going to hopefully get that rolling in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
But
I've
again, too, this is
for some virtual stuff right now. So
yeah,
count me in for you guys.
Cool, man. All right, go for it, dude.
Let me share again. Okay. So once again, the name of this brand is called Smirk. And I'm working with this guy who's kind of an entrepreneur, and he launches a lot of, shake products, things that you would eat after you work out. I'm sure Longo, who's lifting heavy after his workout, 20 minutes after his workout, he makes sure to drink his protein.
Got the keto going.
Oh, you're full keto?
No, I just did one. I did one too. And you have to educate yourself on if it's something you don't know,
Totally. And that's, so one of the things that's really interesting about the marketplace for like keto shakes is none of the branding on the side of whey powder or protein powder is very good. It's kind of like, it's really medicinal looking. Let's see. I want to find you guys some.
Well, it's almost like what the cannabis business used to be before it got legalized. It was almost like everything looked exactly the same.
Yeah, 100%. You can see my screen right here?
Yep.
Look at this shit. Honestly, they're pretty indistinguishable from one another. I'm familiar with some of these brands because I do take protein shakes, obviously, because I'm jacked. But there's some that stand out, like where this appears to be nice looking packaging and, has this kind of like matte paper behind it, but, it's super bro down, which, there's a lot of bro down. So look how broy that is. You got to drive a lifted truck.
Pretty much.
But then there's this other kind of like really medicinal looking stuff that is just, so it looks like it tastes bad. It looks boring. So the marketplace is pretty easy to design for. So I was actually kind of excited to take on the project and kind of, see what I could come up with. So like with all my projects, even the ones that I'm doing personally, I art direct all of them. And which for me, that means find images that I like and I think are interesting, and then I just put those images on a page. And then sometimes I'll narrow the focus of that page because I want all the images to kind of talk to each other and feel like they have general direction.
Got it.
I'll give you an example of what I showed my client.
And did you do a questionnaire or discovery prior to this?
I didn't because the client doesn't really have the budget for all that stuff, but
Cool.
I get a little okay with floating on my intuition for some of that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I know the keto consumer tends to slant towards women. That that was the thing we talked about. Yeah, I think they were talking 60 to 70% of their customer base was women.
Great.
Don't quote me on that because it was a majority of their clients.
I got you.
The other thing, we did a little bit of market research, which is to say we Googled what those shakes would look like. Another thing that's really important about this this group is that they sell almost exclusively on Amazon. And so the Amazon shopping experience was really, really important. So,
yes.
And the Amazon shopping experience is not that great. In my opinion, it's like the products look really, really bad and it's coming from multiple sellers. So there's inconsistency in how the product shows up. So you might buy protein from one person that is the same brand as someone else and their photos look really, really different. And a fortunate thing here is that appears that all of the this brand Smirk is only going to be sold by this person. So it's not going to be a lot of inconsistency there. But we have to take into consideration how small the product is going to show up on Amazon. So
Gotcha.
All that to say, this is the art direction pages that I showed them. So for every client that I work with, I do, about two to four art directed pages where they can, pick between those things and then we move forward with it. But I don't show anything that I don't like, really.
Yeah.
So the first one, our directed page we call Doodle Dance, and then I usually put some descriptions on the left side that was hand drawn, etc. And then you feel that these three images kind of all feel like they're part of the same family.
Yep. And all found images. You're not doing anything here.
I've not designed a single thing.
This is you collecting
on a page.
Good.
And this is one of my favorite things to do, honestly.
Yeah.
It's kind of mind numbing, but it's just very it's like graphic design porn. You're just like,
Yeah.
oh, this is a cool thing. This is a cool thing. Let's put those together. So a second direction I had here was called, Technicolor Trip Out. So
Nice.
you can see these things all kind of feel like the same family. This fits right in with the type of thing that I design all the time, which is just fun, crazy, bright stuff. And then I try to include like a more elevated looking design.
Nice.
I was calling this color block mix up, so things that felt refined, the typography is a little more refined, it's a little more arid,
Yeah.
Pink is a color that I want to use on everything. So I have to be careful about that. So I'm drawn to things that are pink. And so he, the lead, my project manager, the guy who's approving all this stuff on the client side, he hated all these. So
Really?
that's okay. That it doesn't happen to me that often. So I just said, okay, well, how about you? This is the most dangerous situation, but I'm like, how about you art direct it? What are some things you like? And so he actually pointed to all things on my website, so he said that he really liked these Star Wars socks. And then he really liked these NBA illustrations that I'd done.
Great.
And that's Allen Iverson. And so that ended up on a sock as well. And I was just thinking, well, how do I make food out of, what these things look like? I mean, so I threw in a couple other images on the right side only because I was just like kind of drawing up question marks on like how I was actually going to make the thing work. So he approved this and we got the art direction page and I was just like, oh shit, how am I going to make this? So
I got
one of the only times
quick question for you.
Go ahead.
What would you consider this more on the lower budget side of a typical project for you?
Yeah, lower budget, sub 10 grand, project. I know that sounds like a crazy amount of money, but this could be a couple weeks worth of work. I try to budget, I'm making them between 100 and 125 an hour. I'll raise my hand to the client if we start to go way over budget or anything like that.
I was just going to ask, so like with a lower budget client, that dynamic, you have a certain amount that you're going to give, and then you put up a red flag when it's maybe going over that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I let them know.
Okay.
Yeah, I budgeted. In this case, it was like a week for this project.
Great.
And then I always say, hey, if I'm gonna go over budget here, I just got to let you know. So
good.
it's pretty give and take. And, you know, I don't think of my client relationships as adversarial in any way. There's no us versus them or them versus us kind of thing. I know it can be like that on some agencies or with some designers, but I don't really even, I would crack a joke about my client, but I would never talk bad about it.
Sure. 100%.
Client, you know? So this was the first rounds of design. Oh, sorry. You know, actually, we're going to skip that. We're going to go back to logos because I think we did logos first.
Do you explore logos? You're probably going to answer this question with the brief here, but do you go logo only first and then once you're rock solid, move into packaging, or do you combine them?
Yeah. So I think all packaging needs some type of identity or something to base around. That's what we did first. So these are all my sketches for the logos that we did. And I went really, 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 really broad on this stuff. You know, sometimes a little bit more focused, but I want to give my clients the idea, or at least the impression, to know that I explored everything, you know?
Yep.
So we have this art direction page. And so then I just started writing the word smirk, you know, like a million different times. Typically I would just type out the word smirk in a bunch of different fonts. And then sometimes I would customize a bit. So I did all these smirk sketches. And one of the things you have to be careful about, you know, with smirk is that actually, like, the smiley face is trademarked. A lot of people don't know that because they put it on their streetwear brand or whatever. But like somebody could eventually come after you. And also, it's very of the time to draw smiley faces. So it's also kind of on the brand side of things. If you're going to make brand packaging, if you pay super close attention to trends, and you see a trend that's very, very macro, like smiley faces. How many of you guys have seen smiley faces on t-shirts right now? I swear to God, they're literally everywhere. And so if that's an indication to me, in my view, that you should completely avoid that. Because as far as identity and brand design goes, you know, 3 years from now, they'd be really, really tired of it. And it's not a thing that your client can own anymore, especially if so many people are doing it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've drawn a bunch of smiley faces. And then I get to the point where I've kind of exhausted all my ideas that I wanted to just pick some of my favorites. You know.
Cool. And this is in the same stage
in that same deck, yeah.
Good. Okay.
So I want to show them all my sketches. Not every designer's like that, and then I wanted to pick the ones that I think are really good.
Yeah.
And so then I just, you know, just for fun, threw them up on the shape of the bottle that we might have, so that they can get an impression or perspective of what that would be like. And I was also keeping in mind that the illustration style that he picked was very kind of like crazy and like intense, and it was going to have a lot of color. So it kind of almost made me feel like the logo would not be the dominant hierarchy object.
Yep.
People were going to be more drawn to the illustration than they were the logo. So I pushed pretty hard for some more simple logos. This one was one of my favorites.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
And so we ran the gamut, and so he showed him all those, and he hated the ones that I liked. So, so he didn't like my art direction, and he didn't like my logos, and that's okay, really, you know, because, you know, I'm giving the best suggestions, but I like to stay dynamic in a way that I'm like totally open to it. So he actually picked something off of this page, which is actually number 2 on this page. And so, you know, ironically, when I sent this out to some other designers, you know, I had a designer pick that as one of their favorites. So, you know, I went with it. Okay, like, let's see what we can make out of it. I had some reasons why I didn't want this to be on there. Scripts are just harder when they get reduced down in size to read and know what's going on. The other one was, it doesn't look like the Amazon logo, but there is that, on the Amazon logo, there is that lower swoosh. So it would have been something that like I thought about or debated about, that there'd be some comparison. I wasn't worried about a trademark issue here at all. I was more worried about a trademark issue with some of the smileys that were happening.
Yeah.
But you know, I was also keeping in mind that like a logo is just one part of this project. You know,
it's the beginning.
It's just the beginning. It doesn't really mean that much in the greater hierarchy of like branded assets.
Yeah.
So
two questions for you while you're here. Did they come up with the name Smirk?
They did, yeah.
Okay. So of course it's going to start the conversation of being a little fun, welcoming, maybe even on the cartoon side, just
Yeah.
But that,
Initially, some of the branding was they wanted something a little more even simplified or modern. But then when I showed them that stuff, it seemed like they really wanted like a more scriptish version of it.
gotcha.
So,
Gotcha. And that stage, are you adapting into Procreate or iPad yet, or are you 100% Illustrator with what you just
I'm
showed
just
us?
like I'm what they call a designosaur.
Yeah,
I'm just like, I'm old, I'm in like my mid 30s now, I've been doing this for 15 years, but I'm not super old, but like, I'm kind of like gotten so quick at the tools that I'm using
True,
right now
right.
that I tend to just waffle in between using Illustrator and using Photoshop. And Procreate to me, as far as I understand, like doesn't really, the vector part of it is not easily managed. And then the file sharing part of it is just a thing I would need to learn. I'm not afraid of it, but I'd rather have a Cintiq or something at the moment, or like an iPad Pro with Illustrator. But I've just heard some mixed reviews, so I'm just kind of like waiting.
Another good alternative we've been looking at is like Fresco is Adobe's version of Procreate, and they have vector and raster brushes now. So it does make it a little easier. But I think the real answer is it's basically depending on the design. If you want to do something by hand, you're going to do it. But if you rely on a solid font, you're going to be on your computer. So it's kind of, that to me is like maybe the best way to look at how you branch out on those two.
There's definitely, so with logos, it's a mix for me. Sometimes the logo is completely custom type, and sometimes it's just based on a font, at least early on in the beginning, I usually do a little just, based on regular fonts that I've typed out. But I should be using saying typefaces. People get really weird about that.
Yeah.
So,
and one thing you did say, because it's kind of related to a question someone asked, is the knowing that they love the illustration side. That's what brought them in. I think you might have hinted to it. You wanted to make the logo maybe not compete too much with that and keep it on more of the simple side, so it's not competitive to the illustration that you might be coming down the road.
Precisely. It was just about something being too busy. It was just like, one, you want people to be able to read the product. You want people to be able to know they can spell it. Like if they leave
100%,
the store, they can write it out. They can Google it. And then one of the things that we're considering the entire time is that basically like, a logo, it might be a branded asset, but really the way that most people are going to be interacting with this product is like, they're going to think of it like a Coca-Cola can, So like when you think about the Coca-Cola logo, mostly you're thinking about the can, the way that kind of wraps around the can. You pretty rarely see it on its own, maybe in a commercial, but your interaction with like the product is like all based around this one can, right? So I think of the product as a logo, like as an image. I don't know how else to explain that other than like, these things are almost never, they're never inseparable, or rarely. They might exist on like as a favicon or something on the site, but like the 99% of the people working with this product are going to see it in the bottle form.
Perfect.
So here were the concepts that I came up with. I don't know if how far along in the progress I was with here, but so I was like, how am I going to draw chocolate to, look like it? So I fucking had no idea. Like even like 4 hours before I presented, I didn't really have anything drawn. Yeah. And that was because all the things that I drew, I didn't really like. But so this was the first initial thing I drew. So I guess it's kind of considered low poly. You have these chocolate bars and you have these like brownie bars, and then and it feels kind of like it has those splashes of color like in those other objects. So that was the only way I could connect it. I drew a turquoise one, and here in this instance, I'm actually using my favorite fonts and not the ones that my client picked. And minimal typography, things that go on the front. Obviously, I know when I'm designing a product like this, I'm going to end up with much more product information because the FDA, thank God for them. They want to keep us healthy. And so they're going to want to jam more copy on there.
Oh, dude, yeah. I'm dealing with it on a box that is about the size of a business card, and it has as much copy as a small novel.
Oh, my God. Oh, so dude, it's the worst.
Driving me crazy.
That's why some of those, especially like the multivitamin stuff and whatever else, like they just have to jam so much stuff on there.
One question that I think would be a cool one to ask at this point, how are you thinking of all of the other flavors? Because what the students are doing right now is like, because they have 3, they have to consider what stays the same per model, and then what changes per variation? And are you keeping that in mind here?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I wasn't. Well, what I was trying to do was map like an illustration style that I knew that I could just keep adapting and replicating. You know, it's not going to be easy. Like, I am a commercial illustrator, so that's like my job. But you know, here, just looking at this page, which is not the final design, but here are some things that are standing out. One is pink and blue are our dominant colors that I know I'm going to want to use a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have this color palette of brown that I think is really, really nice. So I know that it's rectilinear. Is that a term you guys ever use? Rectilinear, meaning, you know, angled, sharp angles. There's no smooth lines whatsoever. And I knew that I was repeating, so it was kind of all over the place. So there are sort of like these, you know, if I was going to write out like an identity, what do they call that? What's the word? Design system or something like that, of like how to illustrate for this. That would be a thing I would recommend. Rectilinear, pops of color, repeating in all directions, you know?
Yeah.
And so then I did another version here that was kind of more like chocolate, you know, being dunked into other chocolate.
That's great.
So kind of crazy, a little hard to read, you know. I drew two versions so that they would feel safe and they picked a better one. This is much more masculine than the other one. I think, you know, in terms of color, maybe not so much, but in terms of movement, you know, it's a little more, much more graphic. And it's hard as hell to draw, you know, in a low poly type of version to draw food and stuff like that. So
and look appetizing, right?
And look good, yeah.
Yeah.
And not look like poop.
Yeah.
Not look like Mr. Poopy Butthole or whatever. So I kept in this deck like all my other sketches so that they would, you know.
Oh, good.
I just want them to know we're seeing everything, you know. Maybe there's stuff in the far back, and I don't mind mix and matching like logos, which is what we ended up actually doing.
So does your presentation deck, is it staying the same and then just you're adding on to it with each stage?
Yeah.
And
usually.
the benefit there?
I'm just trying to flex to my client that they've seen a lot.
Good.
You know?
Yeah.
Like we won't go through that like I'm doing here. All that extra stuff, but I want them to know that it's in there. It's kind of just like you're hammering.
It's cachet, right?
Yes,
you want to
exactly.
You're like, look. And also what I always love about doing that is it shows the path. So the biggest thing, and what students won't really know until they're really working with the clients one-on-one, is how they can change their direction or even just their preference halfway down. Keeping this alive and this chain shows we got here for a reason. And let's stick to it. Like, it's always good. Yeah. It's always good to have as support, you know?
Yeah. I'm never, you know, and this client's in the instance of the two times that he wasn't going in the directions that I was recommending. I don't ever just assume that he's wrong and I'm right. You know, like, I think that I have good taste, so I have to trust that I'm always going to make something good.
Yeah.
And so, that's the hardest part about graphic design, I think, in general, is like knowing that you can trust that at the end you're always going to make something nice.
Exactly. Yep.
So after we saw that, we went through a couple other rounds of just like refinement, and then the final version of the brand guidelines, where are you, was this. So this was something that's kind of, sorry, there's like a seam in here. For some reason it doesn't want to look.
Don't worry.
Let's open it in preview. So we have kind of like a deck of illustration that, you know, this feels like it's in a family. We show the logo, we show the supporting font, which is Gotham, which is probably used as much as any font there is, but I think it's a nice supporting font.
It's a shock it's not Den.
Yeah, I could have used Den, dude. It's my favorite font, but I used Den. Then you know, what you were talking about, we do like a little color guide, you just grabbing all that. And this is really slimmed down sort of branded deck, because, you know, they're not paying for a full branded guidelines yet, you know.
So you consider an abbreviated version of it, right?
Really, really abbreviated, yeah. Like,
and sometimes too, by adding just like that 2-page like style guide in a lower budget client, it's still a great asset, and it allows you to at least get the most of, what you're charging, which is kind of
Yeah,
good sometimes.
totally. People don't know that like once you finish the brand identity like this, that it should be fixed. It should be like fixed, meaning like not changing.
Solid.
It shouldn't
Yeah.
change from asset to asset. It should not look different on the website. It should not look different
Yeah.
on the Instagram. Now, I'm not art directing this entire thing from start to finish, so there will be variants in this stuff because I'm not part of those other.
But you give them projects. The guidelines. You give them the head start. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And so this is what the final, before we started to change the copy, this is what we kind of landed on. We thought it looked really nice.
Nice.
And so we knew once we added all the other copy that we wanted to just keep, a real asymmetry. Like we want to get as close to this mock-up as possible. And I feel like even like from far away, you can tell that it's about chocolate. It's pretty striking, and it looks dramatically different from those dumb whey protein shakes that I was showing you earlier.
Exactly. And like you said, this is only going to be on Amazon, and that's like a whole other animal to consider. And everyone on this call can think when you're searching through Amazon specifically on your phone, it's kind of tiny. So
so what I was going to show you was here's what the final, look at this page of keto shakes. There's definitely one that looks dramatically different than the other ones. And it's the one that we worked on.
Nice.
Just to my own horn, so like, that's a thing to just be thinking about and considering. And this is called, I don't know if anyone would say this as a web designer, but if you design products like I do, this is called merchandising.
Exactly.
So Amazon has merchandised this page to decide that either these are their best-selling brands at the top, and then everything else is downgraded, before that, because either it doesn't have as many purchases or it doesn't have as many star ratings. So this is a brand new product, so it appears that it doesn't have any ratings whatsoever.
Gotcha.
But you can just see on this page, like, it looks dramatically different than the other things.
Yep.
But so then we are building out we're still in the middle of this, but we're building out the other products or the other flavors rather. And so this is what the label looks like for the mocha version.
Nice.
And so you can see we're keeping that kind of low poly look. And then those bright, pops of pink color. And it can get pretty feminine looking really quickly, which is not to say it's a bad thing, but we want to make a little gender neutrality in there to keep, both parties interested. And so I thought that one turned out really great. And then we were working on the vanilla one, which, once again, I had drawn a ton of low poly ice creams. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll see, like, sometimes I'll just be like, which one?
Yeah. That's a good way to throw out there. We got a few questions. So first one, obviously the client told you what market this was in prior to doing it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You knew Amazon, right?
Well, I knew Amazon was the primary, retailer for that. So I knew e-com was going to be the spot for it, which I think e-com is just a really unfriendly, place to merchandise your product. Like, you could go to a store and you can see a gorgeous, like, it was White Claw was in season. I saw like a White Claw castle made one time of White Claws, and I was like, dude, that's gorgeous. But you're never gonna, like, on Amazon for that, like, the retail equivalent for that would be that they put you on their front page, and then they put you in like one of their, things that you should buy.
Faster in the search results or something,
Yeah, faster in the search results. But really, like, if you go to Amazon, the front page is curated more so they're telling you they want you to purchase onward. They're telling you, my wife likes to buy books for our daughter, so they're telling you to do this. And so this is their version of merchandising. This is their version of
targeted merchandise. Yeah,
point
for
of
sure.
Purchase. Yeah, targeted.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that people will use that term, but I just come from a retail background. So
Another good question, and this I think we all battle with this one too, but is standing out, could that ever be can that work against you? Because how far do you take it? You don't want to be that oddball that's totally off, but maybe you do sometimes. Like, where do you kind of measure that?
Yeah, there are some like sacred things in different types of industries. Like, for example, like, I've designed a lot for skateboarding, and skateboarders are just kind of known for, they don't want posers coming in and like, just thinking they know best. And, when I designed for Nike, it was kind of the early stages of them launching like the action sports stuff, and there was a lot of rejection from the core consumer base because they saw it as phony or poser stuff. So they were struggling with like, do we want to stand way out and look completely different, or do we want to look like the other brands? I don't think they ever really got it mastered right, but yeah, certainly there were times where looking distinctly different from your consumer could be bad. In this instance, the marketplace is primed for someone to come in and just be way different.
Yeah.
And
And it's young enough.
Also,
it's young enough too.
It's young enough.
Yeah.
And also
that's a good point.
keto is, I don't know how long the diet's been around, but the fad is new. So it's not like there's some long standing tradition of like what the expectation for keto brands should be, that you need to check off all of those things. But as far as consumer goods go and foods and drinks, and I think there's pretty much always a time to come in and look way different. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I like that. What about copy? It's when you see great, like the copy on the back that you had about carbs. What involvement do you take in there? Do you add that on? Do you add it naturally?
Yeah. Some people do ask me to write for them. In this instance, I did not write the copy on that. We had she's a brand manager, and she's
cool.
Her name's Lisa Frame. She's funny and she's a good copywriter. So she was writing all those tags, and I was trying to fit them wherever I want. The more bits of content you can have, the more you can build out the robust identity of the brand. There's just so many touch points.
The tone, the voice, the voice. So
many places where the consumer is going to be interacting with you, and that's just one place.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's I've been noticing that as much as, and what we try to strive and tell the students is, if you can be that person that comes up with that clever little line like that and then design around it too, it's like a 1-2 punch, because it's like you don't have to hire that person. But when you do get great copy like that, then it's now your responsibility to make it sing great on the packaging too,
100%.
Good.
So yeah, the one thing I was going to show you, sorry, I was not screen sharing earlier, but I just want to show you that this is what the Amazon front page looks like.
Yes.
So unless you're on here, like curated in a really nice way, especially this Disney Pixar thing.
Dude, how good is Hunters though, by the way?
Oh yeah. Oh, I only just started it, so I got to open the first scene, and my wife was like, "This is a little dark." And I was like, okay,
no, it gets
watch
good.
It later.
It gets good.
I'm ready to watch it, but yeah. So we watched Onward, and so this is what they're basically telling their consumers to buy. We read a lot of books in our place.
Perfect.
And so my wife.
I mean, that's literally like every retailer's dream, is to have all that data and just put what it thinks you want right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's totally. Killer. So. In that instance, I'm designing for the marketplace. I'm designing for the consumer. I'm trying to make something new. We're trying to refine the tone of this brand, but within their budget as well. I work quickly, and I think I'm just finding from other people that I talk to that I'm charging way less than maybe what some other people are. I think it's a 2-part problem, in that one is that some people's budget is just their budget. And
of course,
so you either take their $5,000 or you don't take their $5,000. So it's there's that kind of like problem, and so you decide, is it worth it to you, and what can you get done? So that's kind of where I was at for a lot of projects that are, this is just a smaller branded project, and they want to test it, and if it does really well, then they're going to dump way more money into the brand. But that's just the nature of things. And I also don't overestimate that branding and identity is everything. Turns out that this project, it's a lot more. It's a lot. People are buying based on what the product looks like. So they're, what's that shiny thing? I'm going to click on that.
Exactly.
It's just so not everything gets to be as fun as that. Let's say, for example, GoDaddy rebranded recently, and people have lots of things to say about rebrands or whatever on the internet. As far as I'm concerned, GoDaddy had maybe the worst logo I've ever seen for the longest time. It was like this zany-haired character. Here, let me just screen share with you what the old GoDaddy looked like. GoDaddy logo.
Old. There you go. Oh, look at that guy. There he is.
So yeah, this is the old logo. Let's see.
Oh, even worse. Yeah.
So
With the ovals.
yeah, I mean, honestly, it's horrible. But I guess the thing that I would say here is that I was doing, I was registering domains with GoDaddy for years with this dumb logo. And so like ultimately, and everyone I knew, everyone I knew was.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Same.
what value did the crazy haired character have? Unless I would say it's almost none. It didn't really affect their brand whatsoever.
Yeah.
And possibly I might make the case that it was good because it was bad. Insofar as like we could remember what it looked like when you saw it other places.
Yeah, and you had your perception of who they were because you went to them first for that need. Yes. Everybody did, right?
That's what you're talking about is the value proposition you're offering to your consumer and then the equity that you're pouring into the brand mark. People are getting familiar with it. They know what it is now. And once you change that, you lose the equity. You can lose the equity. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So if Nike just decided tomorrow, we're done with the Nike swoosh, and it's on the side of millions and millions of pairs of shoes that have existed forever, why would you do something like that?
What a loss.
So that's just years of just marketing behind that
cool.
image. So
I think this would be, I got one more question here, but it'd be a good time too to what usually sparks a lot of good questions is finances, charging, invoicing, the money side. So guys, if you have any questions.
What's this class called?
We're Art 444. This is their senior graphic design class, meaning it's like the last graphic design class to help build their portfolio. But more as well, we've been doing the talking about, freelance, talking about contracts, all that stuff, you name it, anything we can do. It's a very well-rounded course.
Okay, cool.
But the one question we did have was, being that the things that you have seems like a big mix of stuff. How do you typically get your clients? What's the biggest way they come through into your door? Yeah,
I just have so many thoughts on this thing, so I just want to be very clear about it. I'm a commercial illustrator and a commercial designer. So I think of the brands that I design for as all different, and that their tone of voice would be really, really different. So my portfolio, because of that, has there's a massive variance between each project and what they look like. That's also because I don't know if you guys are just people who listen to one type of music, but I'm not. I'm not the type of person to like one type of design or like one type of illustration. So I think that I've always tried to make that a value in my design. People are finding me every which way, some word of mouth, some through Dribbble or some through Instagram. Typically, when you design something that's really cool, it starts to get eyeballs on it over and over again. Either people will pin it on Pinterest, so they find you through that, or people will tweet about it, or in some cases, I've had people write blogs or magazine pieces on me. So I'm old enough now, I've been around long enough time that it's kind of coming from all directions. But when you're young, when you're just starting out, it's going to be mostly who you know. Yeah. And I think so. Then the emphasis on what should be your priority is having a good experience with those clients, because either they're going to reuse you later or they're going to refer you to other people. Yep. The idea that you're going to become an Instagram star in the next year, it's possible, but it's highly unlikely. So I think you would probably just bet on making cool stuff for the clients that you have now. Yeah. As far as charging is concerned, then usually I would just say, it's okay to ask people what their budget is. What's your budget? What's your timeline? That's the first question that I ask everyone. And sometimes they'll say a really, really low number that I didn't know they were going to say.
Yep.
And then other times,
might
other
just
times
shock the heck out of you.
Yeah. So, we had 40 grand for this. What? Okay. So, I try to work with people's budgets, and sometimes the things take more time. I have no problem just being like, hey, look, normally I would spend about a week on this, or normally I'd spend about 2 weeks on this, and this is what I would charge. Can you meet me closer towards that number? And the better you are at your job, the more proof in the pudding, the better your portfolio, the more likely somebody is going to say yes to that. But once again, I had someone recently hit me up and say, oh, we're gonna be the Nike of socks. I'm like, well, there's already Stance socks, so
Yeah.
they're like, he's like, he's like, oh, will you take $3,000? I was like, I can't do this for less than 5, but you can just look at my portfolio and decide whether it's worth it or not. He's like, well, we'll pay you more once we're doing good. And it's just, people will offer you all types of things, and it's really just depends. Look, if I had not been busy at all or not been busy for a month, then, who knows, I'd be taking this guy's money. But
Yeah.
it tends to be that the more busy you are, the more you can charge. Design is a business. So I don't try to complicate it anymore than I would compare it one-to-one. I would compare it to like plumbing or something. Like people need a service. They don't really know any plumbers, and they're going to hire whoever they saw last who was hanging like the door hanger on their door hanger. Like, they're going to use you in that same way. Oh, like, Mr. Poopy Butthole, that's the guy who I know is a graphic designer. Why don't we use him?
Yeah.
And so
I think we're going to need to see a logo for that in the next few days.
Yeah. Or
Nick
I know. Longo. I ran into Nick Longo, and I know that he does logos, so we're going to use him. It tends to be more like that plumbing situation than it does, but there's other ways, once you become a renowned designer, you're a famous celebrity designer, people are coming to you for totally different reasons.
Yeah.
So,
is there any downside for that you are so flexible, or you can take on anything? We all have an answer for that.
I'm not famous on the internet. I honestly think that my versatility, or my interest in versatility, has kind of hurt my marketing towards fellow designers, because I'm not really known for a thing, and I don't have ownership over a thing really.
But they're not paying the bills.
Yeah, they're not. Well, so there's just really different ways to like look at that. Yeah, there's like, I don't know what everyone else makes in my industry, but there are people that I talk to about pricing, and I kind of know what people charge for things.
Yes.
And so there's 2 ways. If you're a commercial illustrator like I am, there's 2 ways to think of yourself. Either you have ownership over some style and just do that, and you have like a rep or an agency that reps your work to other people, and then people always hire you to make that type of work.
Exactly.
And in my view, that's an older means of doing business, because now designers have kind of crept in on that territory who also illustrate, right? And they kind of like dabble in some of that. And I felt like versatility was smart because I wanted to be able to always work.
Yeah.
And, but there's other, what's the gal's name? Mika.
Oh, Mika Farve.
Yeah. Amazing work.
Yeah.
And she's known for her look, and she's really, really famous, and she does all these covers for the New Yorker and stuff. And I would just be willing to bet that she's more of a unicorn than that. She's not a use case for all designers.
Totally.
Have a style. She's really, really great at what she does. But of the time, people have chosen, this is what we want, and she's our star. So she's done a really, really great job there.
Yeah.
And then, but I think the vast majority of people who have chosen one style are kind of feast or famine, or mostly famine.
Yeah. And I think too, like a good way to answer that question is your specialty could just be flexibility. Your specialty can be, anything can be branded. It's when you separate commercial art from, fine art, what you're doing as a specialist in this field, you should be able to do anything from a bank to something raw and edgy. It's kind of like if you set up the system the same way. But I agree. Like the ones that are killing it at their niche, more power to you. That's just, I love seeing that.
I love seeing it too. It's more of a gamble, but I think the payoff could be really, really big.
Yeah.
So I haven't done a New Yorker cover. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone asked, you have a mentorship program or package. You mentioned some options like that you offer. Would you mind giving us a concrete example, if possible?
Of mentoring? Of what?
Yeah. Can you guys maybe just re-question that? There's another one. What's your social media strategy, if you have one at all?
Really, I don't have one other than share the things that I'm making.
Exactly.
I have seen people get really dedicated to it, and it works. Unfortunately, the unfortunate thing for me is that there are these people who can kind of like be like wholly focused on Instagram because that's like their passion, but I run a brand as well as do freelance. So it tends to be that
True.
all the stuff that I would really make kind of ends up on the brand, and kind of gets intermixed with some marketing. So, you know, I wish I had a little more of a strategy. Now I'm just like, I'll post whatever. But you know, it's worked out fine. I have 11,000 followers. Mostly people just want to hear my jokes. That's the thing that they follow me for. I don't know. It's bizarre.
Yeah. And I think isn't it great to do it more naturally and real to your authentic who you are, rather than spinning it or trying to do something just for numbers or things like that, you know?
Well, look, I mean, I want designers to be able to pay their bills. You know what I mean? Like, my priority has never been be famous,
Of
or
course.
be
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
I just like, maybe you guys want that, but I feel like literally right now is the worst time to be famous of all time.
Yeah.
There's just, there's too much pressure, there's too many eyeballs, and there's a lot of people jockeying to be a known person. And I would rather make sure that I pay my bills. Unfortunately, like, and fortunately, I started freelancing way before social media was like a means of getting business. So I had to develop systems that got me business that were not relying on, you know, hashtags or any of that.
Yeah.
And I think those things have a value. And especially if you have a large following, they have a bigger value. But as like designers just starting out, the chances are you're not gonna be a design Instagram star for a little bit.
Yeah.
And you don't want that responsibility just yet. You know, you might want to learn the business and the trade and dealing with trolls. Look, the first comment I ever got on my Instagram for the brand that I launched was, yo, these teas fucking suck. LOL. So there's no, I don't.
So you're starting off there, right? You're like,
that's, I've seen the values. Only can go
Only
up.
one way to go, but up now.
Yeah. There you go. What about business practices or anything that you would recommend to get a little bit more acquainted to legal stuff, things like that? Any good resources you want to share?
More acquainted with legal stuff. Yeah,
I would I'd be the first to offer Jen and Amy Hood's book 100% in that world. You know,
that's a great book. Yeah, I do have that book on my shelf. I've read it a few times. There's a lot of practical stuff in there. On the business side, I think people would say always have a contract, but at the very least have some terms of what you've agreed to, that of what you're going to deliver and what they're going to pay for, how many rounds you're going to go through. If it's a new client, I always make them pay up front, even the full amount. I've had 2 people skate out on their bills in the last 7 years. So people will try to cheat you, especially young designers, man. People are gonna try and dupe you every which way. They have $100, like, give me a logo. That just happens. You want to get to know your clients and have them be reputable. It tends to be at the bigger companies, like, you're not going to have people skirting out on their bills that much. But the big companies also want to pay you in 60 days or 90 days. So, for example, somebody's owed me $4,000 since early January. So there's just stuff like that where you have to kind of chase around. I think QuickBooks is a good platform for keeping your books. I think I hire a bookkeeper because I have lots of sets of books now. And I think also the other thing is there's a law, and I'm not obviously a lawyer, so you might want to double check this. But, there's an AB5
disclaimer.
There's an AB5 law that is going to make it kind of difficult to be a contracted employee somewhere. So the solve for that is that you might want to become an LLC or an S corp, which might require you to pay some money up front. But if you're a freelancer full time, then it would help you over the long run.
Gotcha.
The AB5 law is meant to fix the issue of all the Uber drivers and Lyft people not having health insurance. But because the law is written so broadly, it's made it so that anyone who is a general contractor for any company is now getting kicked out of their company because their employer doesn't want to pay health insurance. And so it's a complicated law. I don't want to get political about it, but a good solve for it would be that you become an S corp or an LLC.
Correct. If that's the route you're going, obviously, yeah.
I would also tell you guys, don't become freelancers right out of school. I mean, I think it's okay. Like if you're you really need money and like that's the only option for you, it's fine. Get the resources out there are really going to help you. The Chutzpah group, they had their book, but you want to learn the business from somebody else. Like
100%.
You want to learn on somebody else's time. You want to fuck up on somebody else's dollar. You know, like the thing to consider there is just there's a lot to learn, and you guys are still just trying to get good at graphic design. And that's the thing I really want you to be focused on. Because once you're good at that, people will pay you whatever. Like some of the times they'll just show up and they'll just offer you money. Like, you're really good at this thing. Like, we want to pay you for it. You want to be in that position. You don't want to be in the hard sales position of like, please give me work. Here's why I'm your graphic designer. You want to see the proof in the pudding. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, like with our climate now and the job situation, you know, just being so kind of bleak in a way, I think it's a smart time to maybe, you know, pick up the side things if possible. Once, you know, the next few months are just so uncertain about where we're going to be. And it's like, but again, if it was normal situation, I'm the same way. I always push find the job, work with someone, learn from someone.
Yeah.
We've all, you know, not many people who are doing it solo or have their own business started that way. They did learn from mentors, and all of us, you know, have them. And I think there've been some great ones out there that, you know, you learn from, and those mistakes, you're right. Do it on someone else's dime, you know?
Yeah. I mean, guys, I don't think this pandemic is going to last longer than 4 months. So, you know, you might have, I think they might even defer payments for your student loans for a little bit. And so maybe you'll get some breathing room
Some break,
in there, but yeah. So, here's how I think you should find a job. Yeah. I don't know if that'll help you. Do you have any questions for me? But I mean,
well, let's do that one. And then we got one or two more. Yeah.
Yeah. So getting jobs or getting freelance gigs, but in particular getting a job, like working somewhere, is going to be who you know, or it's about how many people you've gotten in contact with. So when I first became a freelancer, I emailed 100 people the first week that I was there. Just all I said was, hey, I'm Josh, I'm a freelancer, I want to work with you. And just, I considered that just similar to the analogy of the plumber, of the door hangers. That's what I consider to be my door hanger. Hey, I'm Jacob, and I'm a graphic designer. I want to work for you. Hey, I'm Sarah Newman. I'm a graphic designer. I want to work for you. Just all those little touch points. And it's not an imposition in any way if you have a link to your portfolio to write a very brief email about how you want to work for somebody. And if you're good, you'll hear back from some people. And even if you're good, you won't hear back from a lot of people. Yeah. So it's really just about making that many touch points. But curating your portfolio enough so that when people get a snapshot of like your work, once they arrive to the front page of your website, that they're gonna know exactly what you do. So like when you get to my site, okay, it's pretty obvious what I do. It's heavy illustration based, it's aesthetic, I'm a cake decorator. People know how to use me. There's some variance in the illustration style, but other than that, people pretty much know what I do from the snapshot of my portfolio. Your portfolio might look different, and it might, be, wide, a project through the whole wide frame on the top and a project down here. And then that's okay too, but you don't want people to have to do too much work to investigate like what
you're making it easy for them.
Exactly. It's called thin slicing. Yeah. Is what in the Malcolm Gladwell book, it's called thin slicing. Like when an art director sees your work right away, they can know you're capable of doing the work, you understand the tools, and then they're capable of hiring you. Your service is credible. That's how I recommend doing it. Very short email to 100 people showcasing your work, but make sure you have a mentor or somebody like Longo who's helped you curate your portfolio. And you can fill in the gaps. Like you can fill in wherever the worst parts of your design are. We can get rid of those things and we can produce new projects that are better. And especially you guys, you're in your senior year, you're going to be getting better constantly, and you're going to be getting better quickly. And so the work that you probably made as a junior, it's trash to you now. So, and that starts to get stretched out over time. For me, there's work that I love from 7 years ago now, but that's not going to happen for you guys. So I think it's okay to just keep designing.
Yeah.
in the process.
And it's funny too, like the way you mentioned it, it sounds so common sense, but it's about just being proactive and not just waiting for some ad or some listing to apply to with 800 other people, but being proactive and finding those people that you want to actually like work for, or maybe they might not even have an open gig, but you hit them at the right timing.
Yeah,
you know?
precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that, and they just put you in your Rolodex, and then you're part of their vendor list.
Right.
Nike,
and they've
Nike
seen you, and they've probably seen your work. So that's the memory.
For sure. Sweet. What else we got?
Did you take a job directly out of college, or did you take some time?
I did. I took a few months off and I traveled Europe, and then
That's
I
always
ran up a credit card bill.
Welcome to being a graphic designer for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Then I took a job at Billabong. Was my first job out of college. That was a paid job. I was paid $40,000 a year. They paid for my relocation package to work there. I was kind of a unicorn in that way. They don't really offer that deal to a lot of people, but I would say in my defense, I had worked, a few months at an agency, and I worked really hard on my portfolio. That was like I just made such a value out of it. Cause
Good.
It's just like, look, working out at the gym, like you work out super heavy and then you get to the beach, you're not going to wear just a tank top, dude. You want to take the shirt all the way off. And so that's what I was doing. That's not a good analogy.
But you're right. So you have to put in the work first too. Like, I think that's the other thing, the assets of your brand, who you are, your work, how easy you're making it discoverable, whatever it is. There's a good feeling also knowing you've got all your ducks in a row at that stage, and you're not like all over the place. You'll be so much more confident when you're approaching those people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I was reading some of your comments right here. Anyone can design beer packaging. That's kind of true.
Oh, that was a great line from our guest we had Adam Vickrell last week.
Dude, it's very true. The bar is
sorry, Narek.
every I don't know. That's a good one. I was telling somebody, I was like, just throw some of your art on a can. People would be duped into thinking it's a good design.
A can mock-up will just make anything look good.
100%. I've never seen a bad one.
I'm right there with you, man. I've been guilty of that. Anybody, any other last questions, guys, from you guys? We'll let Josh go.
I have a question.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Hi, Josh. My name is Deja. And
Hi, Deja.
my question is, like, you mentioned a book that has thin slicing in it. Do you have any book recommendations that because I've during this time I'm just in the house, I'm trying to get some reading done.
Good.
I'm just
Good for you.
Book recommendations. So if you have any, I don't know if you do. But
Most of my books that I love are more inspirational things I like looking at. So they'll be by artists. In terms of so here's one right here. The Handbook for Ethical Pricing Guidelines. That's this one. That's for freelancing.
Ooh.
Okay.
There's the Amy and Judd Hood book. Where is that? I know I have it over here somewhere. Hang on.
Yeah, I'm just kind of collecting artists, author names, and at this point trying to narrow down which books I want to dive into.
There's this book.
There it is.
Oh, okay.
So those are two freelance books. I like buying books by artists. There's a guy named Jack Davis who I just bought his book. He did all the illustrations for Mad Magazine. Jack Davis.
Yeah.
I look at Marvel Comics stuff quite a bit. A Type Foundry is in the Northeast. They're called what am I thinking about? Oh, House Industries. This book's really sick.
That book is amazing. If you guys find that, I think it's on Amazon as well. The House Industries. It's one of the most beautiful books.
Oh man! If ever there was a time that I just felt like the worst graphic designer. Yeah. This thing's fucking amazing.
That's a great book.
Definitely write that one down.
That thing. And then, I tend to get into the older artists who have like been around. I don't read so much of like the younger contemporary designers and stuff. Because I kind of idolized the house industry guys since I was like, since I was you guys' age. And so, and yeah, Jack Davis is like the guy I've been looking at a ton lately. So you can start to see his like influence showing up in my work. But.
Cool. What about your typical day? Do you break it up into hours? How do you schedule yourself? Well, nowadays, now
I have kids, so they wake up at different hours. But when I was more regimented, I would wake up, I would meditate, I would work out, I would get into the gym, and then not every day I would do it exactly like that, but most days I would, and then I write out a to-do list of all the things that I have here. There's my to-do list, which is
there you go.
Long. Sometimes there's some personal guides in there, which I'll be like, be nice to other people, but I didn't. I just wrote my list of like things that I needed to do, and then I start to cross them off as the week gets a little longer. I don't get to all of them, but usually I try to get through them. And then, that's how I begin my day. But the things I would emphasize from this talk, it was pretty haphazard, but I think it worked out, is that you guys should try to art direct yourselves. Like learn the skill of art directing yourself. Learn the skill of making a mood board, because you can get really good at designing things that way. Then try and, if you can, get a job out of school, and so you don't have to like really work that hard at learning the business of design. And then I don't know, get a mentor. That would be like a really big thing. So if you can find somebody who's just a little older, a little bit more senior, somebody whose work you look up to, hey, go get coffee with them or meet them on their own terms. Say, hey, I'm Deja. Like, I've always liked your work. Can I come to your office and talk to you for an hour? And usually people are vain enough to think like, yeah, I'd love to talk about myself for an hour. So like you'll get people like that. And now's
the best time for that. Like take advantage of this time to reach out to those people. Dude, I got to buy stock in Zoom. That's all I see people talking about.
I feel like I missed that train.
What's that? On mentoring? Finding a mentor?
No, I mean like the Zoom, like I feel like it's like too much now. I don't know.
It's the only thing. Like it's I've been on like 9 calls today. This is like this is our norm now, but I think as well, it's an advantage. So if it's someone that's not in your state or their schedule is always crazy, getting we're all getting more used to this now because of these few weeks we're going to be doing this. So take advantage of it. I think look at the response we're getting by just getting guests in, because, trying to get Josh to come to CSUN is like, booking a flight. He's got to fly into Burbank. And he's only in Orange County.
So somebody asked about thin slicing. That's probably the last thing. Like, I don't read a lot of books about human behavior and stuff, but I do like the Malcolm Gladwell stuff. The Blink, The Power of Thinking Without Thinking is about like snap. There's a huge chapter on thin slicing, which is like when you become an expert at something, you get good at recognizing whether something is, good or not, or qualified or not. That's what's going to happen with art directors when they see your work. They make like snap judgments really quickly about whether you're good at your craft or not. And they can see really quickly the holes in it, the things that aren't great. And then he also has another one about talking to strangers, which I read recently, which is really good. And it's all about how bad we are at judging other people and how we get them wrong all the time, for positive and for worse. And so the last example, I'm excited about it because I think it's really cool, but there's a thing called matching, which is like, Longo's he's a person he's considered matched, meaning like when he's in a happy mood, that he's in a happy mood. When he's in a surprised mood, you can tell he's surprised by something. So his his emotions are on his face are perfectly matched with like how he's feeling. That's partly probably because he's a teacher. So like he wants you guys to know that, he's really excited when you did a good job, or like, he's really mad when you were late, So after I read that book, it made me realize that there was a lot of times when I was interacting with somebody over email or over video chat where where I wasn't reading the person right because they're not matched. Like their facial expressions are not matching like how they feel. So there's been times where I finish a client, I'm like, fuck, that guy hated my guts. And they'll be like, that was the greatest client ever. And they speak so highly of you to other people and whatever. And so there's just, don't, I guess a good thing would be to read that book so that you can get some impression that like people are not always what
That's a good
impression
one.
that you're getting from them.
Good
So
deal.
cool. I
All
enjoyed
right.
this.
Thanks so much, dude.
The only cost of me being here is that you guys should follow Chomp Brand. That's it.
There you
That's
go.
all. You got this lesson for free.
Get on Instagram right now, follow Chomp Brand, and do it.
Yeah. Thanks for
Don't
having me,
worry.
dude. This has been fun.
Yeah. Dude, thank you so much. You made a perfect
Thank you, Joshua.
debut. I love
See you
it.
guys.
Can you
All right.
spell
Thanks,
that?
Oh, wait.
Can you spell the name of your Instagram, please?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
This is my personal one, and
It's
my
Chomp,
brand
like
one,
Chomp.
and then my
Brand.
brand one is Chomp Brand.
Sent it in the chat.
There it is. Did you get it?
Yes. Thank
Typed it
you.
in the
Oh,
chat.
thank you. Perfect.
Sweet.
If the
Great,
students
guys,
want
be
to,
safe.
Yeah,
Social
thanks.
distance.
yeah, exactly, man. Thanks again, bro. I really appreciate you coming on, man. This has been
Appreciate
great.
it, guys. See
All
ya.
right, students, stay on
Bye.
for a sec. All right, see you, Josh.
Okay.
All right, got everybody? Looks like we're all here. I see the mutes coming off.
Yes.
Real quick, everybody.